Hi, my name is Marci White, and I'm going to share some information with you about Words Their Way, and I'm going to teach a lesson to kind of show you what it's about. The information that I'll be sharing with you comes from the Words Their Way book. Word study is very important. Students need hands-on opportunities to manipulate word features in a way that allows them to generalize beyond isolated individual examples to entire groups of words that are spelled the same way. The best way to develop an accurate perception of word features is to engage in meaningful reading and writing. One must have multiple opportunities to examine those same words out of context. You need to allow 10 to 15 minutes of instruction and practice time daily for your program. What's the purpose of word study? Well, there's two purposes. First, it helps children develop general knowledge of English spelling, and then second, word study increases specific knowledge of words, the spelling and meaning of individual words. General knowledge is what we assess when we encounter a new word, when we do not know how to spell a word, or when we do not know the meaning of a specific word. Word study is not a one-size-fits-all program. It must match the level of word knowledge of the learner. So one of the easiest ways to know what students need to learn is to look at the way they spell words. Students' spelling will provide a direct window into the way they think. So you will want to get started with the spelling inventory, and you will find that in the Words Their Way book. It's towards the back, and you can read about it in Appendix A with the assessment materials. You are going to want to get started probably as a second grade teacher with the primary spelling inventory, so that is in the book as well. And what you will want to do is select your inventory for the grade that you teach. Prepare your students. Let them know that this is not a test like a weekly test where they can study, and they can't study and prepare for this test. You might even want to tell them that as long as they try their best, they'll receive an A, because you want to create a relaxed environment. Let them know that some of the words are going to be hard and they may not be able to spell them, and some of the words will be easy. Privacy folders are probably a good idea because that will alleviate some of the copying or the trying to look at someone else's paper. And you want to allow about 20 to 30 minutes. Call the words out loud, pronounce the words naturally without drawing out the sounds or breaking the words into syllables. You're going to say each word twice, and then you're going to use it in a sentence, and the sentences are provided for you with the words so that you know what to say. You want to move around the room and monitor so you can see what's going on, because if you do notice that the majority of the students are missing quite a few, you might want to stop there. And so by walking around the room, you'll be able to tell. When you're finished administering the inventory, you will want to score it. And this can take a little bit of time, but it explains exactly how to do that in the back of the book. And when you score the inventory, each word has a number of features. And a student can actually spell the word wrong and still get some points. So you have to be very careful of that. It provides information regarding what students know about specific spelling features and what they need to practice. So after you have given this inventory, you should be able to look at your class list and see some groups that you can that your kids should be put into. And sometimes you may have 2 groups, sometimes as many as 4 groups of 4 to 5 students. It just varies, but the groups are fluid. They're always changing, so the same kids are not always together. The stages of the spelling development are emergent spelling, letter, name, alphabetic spelling, early letter, name, alphabetical spelling, which is around the 1st grade, within word patterns, 2nd grade, syllables and affixes, and then derivatives and their relations to spelling. Some things that you really want to consider are what students do correctly, and then what do students use but confuse, because this is where instruction is going to be most helpful. Also, what is absent from the student's spelling, because that spelling concept is too difficult. Whatever is absent, that concept is too difficult. So, word sorts are a big part of Words Their Way. Word sorts are a very effective way to teach spelling skills. Sorting helps kids pay attention to words and patterns within words, and it's hands-on. And there's lots of different sorting activities that you can do. You can teach a whole class or the small groups. I know that my teachers wanted to use the same spelling list, so if you're using the same spelling list, some of the activities you might want to do as a whole group, you still might want to break them into so that you can have smaller groups and work in a smaller setting. Some supplies that you might want to have handy are a pocket chart for your sorts, baggies to put your sort in, scissors, sentence strips, index cards, sticky notes. When you do speed sorts, you'll need timers. You might even want a spiral notebook or folders for your student to keep as a word study journal. I'm going to model a sorting activity, and first we're going to build some prior knowledge, and so we're going to review the long and short A sound. And so what I would do if I was working in a small group around a horseshoe table is I would say some words for the students, and I would have them tell me if it was a long sound or a short sound. So I might say the word pat, and I might ask them, what do you hear, what sound does the A make when Mrs. White says pat? And they would indicate that it was the short A sound. And I would go through a list of words: man, day, rain, cap, name, rain, and we would kind of identify whether it was a long sound or a short sound. And then I would tell them that today we would be working, or this week we would be working with long A, and we would be working with some of the most common long A spelling. So we're working on long A, and I would say the word name, and then I would write the word name on the board. So I would write name, and we would listen to the long A sound, name, and I would ask them if they noticed what might make the long A spelling, and we would talk about the vowel consonant E. So I would underline that, and we would talk about the vowel consonant E, and I might write vowel consonant E, so they would see that long A spelling pattern. And then I might say the word rain, and so rain, and I would write the letters. And then we would talk about what makes the long A sound, and I would underline it so they could see that pattern. And I would write long A up here. And then I would say the word day, and I would write it up here. And we would talk about that pattern, the long A spelled A-Y pattern, and I would underline it so they could see that. And we would talk about our categories: long A spelled A consonant E, long A spelled A-I, and then the long A spelled A-Y. And we would look at that, and then I would have the words on sentence strips or index cards, and I would use a pocket chart, and this one has some deep pockets, so I've kind of modified it to show you what that would look like. But we would go through each word, and we would place it in the category. So our long A words spelled with an A-Y are day, say, and may, and our long A words spelled with an A-I are male, pale, wait, and rain. And our vowel consonant E pattern words are tape, vowel consonant E, shape, vowel consonant E, name, vowel consonant E. And as we're going over these and sorting them, I might underline so they can see the long A. And I might even want to use different colors so they can see. Or I could use the same. And then I might want to vowel consonant E, vowel consonant E, vowel consonant E, vowel consonant E, so they can see that. And we would do the sort together. Then I would have a sort for them that would look something like this. and they would use scissors and they would cut the sort out, and later they would put it in a baggie to keep, because we would use this throughout the week for different activities, different sorting activities. So I would give them their sheet and they would cut along on the dotted lines, mix them up, and then they could either practice alone or with a partner, and they could lay their categories and then sort their words. And I would listen to them as they were saying their words to make sure they're decoding correctly. And if we finished early, we could mix them up and sort again and practice the long A spelling. So that is one thing I would do. Towards the end of the week, they could take their baggie and they could actually glue their sort onto construction paper and turn it in for an assessment. But these would be the words that we would use on Friday for the spelling test, and then we might also put some words that follow these same patterns too that are not necessarily up here. Like play could maybe go here, and we would think of some others for the spelling test that follow these same patterns. We do lots of sorting activities through the week using our words. We might have a notebook, just a journal or a folder with some notebook paper, and we might record our sort into here. We also could have some recording sheets if we were using a folder where we would record our sort onto paper, and it would be attached in there. For example, here we could do our AY, AI, vowel consonant E, and then we could list our words. And later in the week we could look those words, or we could pick some of the words and look them up in the dictionary and find guide words and do a little dictionary work with our words. And this could be in our folder. Another thing we might do is write sentences with our words so that we can practice capital letters, punctuation marks, and illustrating, drawing and labeling pictures of our spelling words. So some of them might be a little harder. Mail, we could draw some letters or a mailbox and illustrate our spelling words to help through the week. We could also keep track of sorts when we do a speed sort or a blind sort and what buddy or partner we did that with, and I'll explain those sorts here in just a moment. But this would be a good recording sheet. Basically on a sort, you want to I would want to introduce the sort first to the small group or whole class, but then we would want to do sorting practice throughout the week, and we would take our baggie out and we would read through all of our words and make sure that we know them all. If not, we would ask, and then we would want to put our columns up, and we would need some space either in the floor or on our desk, and then we would want to place our words in the correct column or the correct category, and then we could have a partner check or the teacher check to see that we did that okay. We could again record them in our notebook, and then put our cards back in the baggie to save for later. You could also use envelope if you didn't have baggies. A blind sort is something that you might want to do towards the end of the week right before the spelling test, and this is a sort where you either get a partner or the teacher could do it with a small group or the whole class. They would take their notebook and they would get their categories, so AY, AI, vowel consonant E, and they could just put that at the top, vowel consonant E, AY, AI, and then the teacher or another student will call out the words, so they might say rain, and the student will decide, does rain go vowel consonant E, AY, or AI, and hopefully they would know to put rain here, and we would go through our 10 words doing a blind sort. So they're sorting them, they're not seeing them, they're just hearing them, and this would want to be saved towards the end of the week. So that would be a blind sort. Another type of sort would be a speed sort, and on this sort you take out your cards, you take them out of your bag, you shuffle them up, get your categories ready, and then you could either use a sand timer or any kind of timer, and you could work with a partner or the teacher could time the class, and when you finish, if you're with a partner, you could hit the stop and record your time and see if you can get faster and faster. So that would be a speed sort. So that's a different type of sorting activity you can do. Another really important activity is word hunt. You want to be on the lookout for words that follow your pattern for the week. And those could be in magazines, they could be in books. If your spelling is coming with along with your reading series, a lot of those words will be in your reading stories for the week, but you want to go on a hunt, and when you see them again, you could record them in your word study notebook, or you could have special sticky notes that you could record them on. But what you want to do is you want to read your books, read your magazines, and you want to look for words that have the same spelling pattern as you're working on for the week, and note them somewhere, and then discuss them and talk about them either as a class or with a partner. You can keep track of your different sorting activities on a chart like this if you want to make sure that you're hitting each of the different types of sorts. Another thing that you might want to do is play word games, and there's many different game ideas in the Words Their Way book. As a matter of fact, when you are introducing your sort, the very beginning, you might even want to consider using pictures rather than words. And so here I found the long A. So they have cake and rain and whale, and so you could actually cut these apart and you could sort them, and you could even throw some, if you had some short A's, so that to make sure that they are understanding between the short A sound and the long A sound, so you could use pictures for your sort also. Some other activities and ideas that you might want to try or use are dry erase boards. These could also be used for blind sorts. When you're working with a partner, there's several different types, some with lines and without, or a chalkboard if you have those available. You could do your sorting on that as well. A great extension for this activity would be to have on chart paper have your categories and your words in the correct categories, and then throughout the week the students are on the lookout. This is kind of like the word hunt, but if they see a word somewhere that has the long A sound spelled with an AY, an AI, or a vowel consonant E pattern, they can write it on a sticky note, a sentence strip, an index card, and then they can glue or tape it onto the chart and see that around the room. So they're having more reinforcement, because like I said earlier, the way they become better is more practice in reading, more practice in writing, in context, out of context, looking, seeing their patterns, manipulating them with their hands. These are all great activities that help students to learn more about their spelling patterns. And a lot of this can be done with a partner or a buddy, small groups, or as a whole class. Thank you very much.